The story begins in a small mountain town surrounded by thick forests and steep rocky cliffs. Tourists come here every year to enjoy the fresh air, the beautiful lakes, and the endless hiking trails. The local people have lived here for generations, and they know the mountains better than anyone. But they also know one rule that visitors often ignore: never stay in the forest after dark. Most tourists laugh when they hear that warning. They think it's an old legend created to scare outsiders. But over the years, strange disappearances have become impossible to explain. Hunters have vanished without a trace. Campers have left behind destroyed tents and abandoned equipment. Rangers have searched the woods for answers, but every investigation ends the same way. No clues, no survivors, and no explanation. At the same time, a group of travelers arrives in town. Each of them has a different reason for being there. Some want adventure, some want to escape the stress of everyday life. Others simply want to spend time with family and friends. They rent cabins, pack supplies, and plan a trip into the mountains, completely unaware that they are walking into a place where something has already claimed the territory. Before leaving, they stop at a small diner. An old man sitting near the window notices their maps and backpacks. He asks where they are going. When they tell him the location, his smile disappears. He quietly says that people who go there at night don't always come back. The younger members of the group laugh, thinking he's telling a ghost story. But the old man simply pays for his coffee and walks away without another word. The next morning, the journey begins. The weather is perfect. Birds sing in the trees, rivers flow peacefully across the rocks, and the mountains seem almost magical. The group takes pictures and jokes with each other. They spot deer running through the forest and even find enormous footprints near a muddy stream. One of them guesses that a large bear passed through recently, but nobody seems worried. As they move deeper into the wilderness, they begin noticing strange things. Trees have been ripped apart as though something incredibly strong attacked them. Fresh claw marks cover the bark. Huge rocks appear to have been rolled aside. The guide leading the group becomes nervous because he has never seen damage like this before. By afternoon, they discover an abandoned campsite. Tents are torn to pieces. Food containers are crushed. A campfire sits untouched as though the people who made it disappeared in the middle of cooking dinner. One backpack remains on the ground, but nobody is around to claim it. The group decides to leave immediately. Then they hear it. A deep roar echoes across the valley. The sound is so powerful that birds explode from the trees, and every conversation stops instantly. Nobody can tell where the noise came from. The guide whispers that they need to keep moving. Fast. They continue hiking, but the feeling of being watched becomes impossible to ignore. Every few minutes, someone turns around because they think they saw movement between the trees. Every snapped branch sounds like footsteps. As evening approaches, they finally reach a remote cabin that was supposed to be their resting place for the night. The cabin is old but sturdy. They lock the doors and decide to wait until morning before heading back to town. During dinner, one of them notices something outside the window. Two glowing eyes. At first, they think it's a wolf. Then the shape stands up. It is enormous, far larger than any bear they have ever seen. The creature stares at the cabin for several seconds before disappearing into the darkness. Nobody sleeps that night. Hours later, heavy footsteps circle the building. Something scratches the walls. Windows shake. The roof creaks under unexpected weight, then silence. One brave member of the group looks outside. Nothing. He steps onto the porch. The others call for him to come back. Suddenly, a massive shadow rushes from the darkness. His flashlight flies through the air. A scream cuts through the night. Then everything goes quiet again. The remaining survivors lock the doors and barricade the windows. Morning arrives, but their friend is gone. The only thing left behind is a broken flashlight and enormous footprints leading back into the forest. Panic spreads through the group. They decide to leave immediately. Unfortunately, their vehicles have been destroyed. Tires are ripped apart. Windows are smashed. Metal doors are bent inward. Whatever attacked the cabin doesn't want them leaving. The survivors gather supplies and start walking toward the nearest ranger station several miles away. Along the path, they discover more evidence that the forest belongs to the giant predator. Dead trees have been knocked over. Animal remains lie scattered across the ground. Even other bears seem to avoid the area. Eventually, they meet a lone ranger who has spent years studying wildlife in the mountains. When he hears their story, he doesn't seem surprised. He explains that an unusually large grizzly has lived in these forests for many years. It survived hunters, wildfires, and harsh winters. Over time, it became stronger and smarter. It learned to avoid traps. It learned to recognize vehicles. Worst of all, it learned that humans could be hunted. The ranger agrees to help them escape. Together, they move toward an old fire tower where emergency equipment can call for rescue. The journey becomes a race against time. Every hour, the giant grizzly gets closer. The survivors begin arguing. Some blame the guide, others blame the ranger for not warning people. Old friendships break apart under pressure. Fear changes everyone. Late that afternoon, they reach a narrow canyon. The only way across is an old wooden bridge. Half the group crosses safely. The others hear a roar behind them. The giant bear charges out of the trees. The bridge shakes violently. People run for their lives. Wood splinters beneath the weight. Some make it across. Others are not as lucky. The survivors continue climbing toward the fire tower. Exhaustion takes over. Food runs low. Water becomes scarce. They realize they cannot outrun the predator forever. The ranger develops a plan. Instead of running, they must use the terrain to their advantage. They collect supplies and prepare traps. Sharp stakes are hidden beneath leaves. Heavy logs are balanced on ropes. Noisemakers are placed throughout the forest. Night falls once again. The bear arrives. The first trap fails. The second slows it down for only a moment. The giant predator keeps coming. Its determination terrifies everyone. The ranger distracts the animal while the others escape toward the fire tower. He disappears into the darkness. A loud roar echoes through the valley. Nobody knows what happened to him. The remaining survivors finally reach the tower and send an emergency signal. A helicopter answers. Rescue is on the way. Relief spreads across the group. Then the tower begins to shake. The giant grizzly has followed them. The old structure groans under the attack. Wood cracks, bolts snap. The survivors climb down as the tower collapses behind them. The helicopter circles overhead but cannot land safely. The pilot tells them to reach an open field. One final chase begins. The survivors sprint across the mountains with the giant bear only seconds behind them. The open field comes into view. The helicopter descends. People climb aboard. One survivor turns back to help another. The grizzly charges. At the last possible second, everyone escapes. The helicopter rises into the sky. Below them, the giant predator stands in the middle of the field, roaring toward the aircraft. The survivors believe the nightmare is finally over. Back in town, rescue teams search the forest for the ranger and any evidence of the attacks. They find damaged traps, broken trees, huge footprints, but the giant bear is nowhere to be seen. Weeks pass. Life slowly returns to normal. The survivors try to move on, though none of them can forget what happened in those mountains. The local authorities close the area to visitors. Warning signs appear at every entrance to the forest. People tell stories about the monster that rules the wilderness. Most outsiders dismiss the tales as exaggerations. Then one evening, a new family arrives at the edge of the forest for a camping trip. As they unpack their gear, the camera slowly moves toward the tree line. A branch snaps. Two enormous eyes open in the darkness. A low growl echoes through the woods. The screen fades to black, leaving one chilling thought. Some legends are not created to entertain people. Some legends exist because somebody survived long enough to tell the story. And somewhere in those endless mountains, hidden beneath the ancient trees, the king of the forest is still waiting for the next unsuspecting travelers to enter his territory. If you ever find yourself deep in the wilderness and everything suddenly goes quiet, remember one thing: nature always gives a warning. The real danger begins when the forest stops making a sound.